Hey, I'm Chris, and this is a Curbly.com video podcast. The mid-century modern ranch, that architectural icon of post-war American ingenuity. Of course, I'll never live in one, so I made one. But, for birds. Okay, so first I cut all my pieces out of 1/2-inch Baltic birch plywood. For the exact dimensions, be sure to check out the accompanying article at Curbly.com. For the slope of the roof, I just eyeballed an angle that I thought looked sharp, and then I measured it with a protractor, flipped it, and scribed it to the other side. Then I cut this angle using the miter gauge on the table saw. And for the back wall, I just copied the front and cut it out again. On the side walls, I cut these 1/2-inch dados to make sure everything stayed nice and square, and to show off all my fancy woodworking skills, like the fact that I know what a dado is. So I made all my cuts. I'm totally covered in sawdust, and I've assembled my pieces here for a dry fit. This is the roof, which will go on something like this, and I've also cut several of these 1-inch strips out of 3/8-inch plywood for some architectural detail on the front. Before I glue and nail everything together, I want to cut a 1/2-inch groove, what they call a dado, where all the walls are going to go in the base plate to provide additional support. I cut these dados on the router table simply because I have one. You could also use a dado blade and a table saw, or just simply skip the step and it'll be totally fine. Then using a hole saw, I drilled a 1.5-inch hole into the front so the birds could get inside. After sanding everything down, I glued the walls in place. It's important to use a waterproof glue since it is going to be outside. Then I sunk a couple of headless pins just to make sure everything stayed in place. If you don't have one of these nailers, just hold it still until the glue dries. Then I added another 1/2-inch piece of plywood just to provide a little extra meat for where we're going to add the mounting hardware. So my glue is dried, now it's time to apply the finish. I'm going to use this exterior wood Danish oil, and then I'm going to do a couple coats of polyurethane just because it's going to be outside and I want it to last longer than a couple of seasons. Then we'll apply the mounting hardware and we'll get in the ground. These hand rub finishes are really easy. Just float them onto the surface, wipe with a clean rag, and wait about 10 minutes and then wipe off any excess. Mounting hardware is just a 1/2-inch black pipe flange, which you can get in the plumbing section of the hardware store. Just drill a couple pilot holes and screw it in. Then pound in a 1/2-inch black pipe, about 2 feet in the ground. If you have a permanent location, go ahead and use some concrete. Spin it on, and voila! Your birds are cruising atomic style. Remember, for complete written instructions and a diagram, check out the accompanying article at Curbly.com. If you don't have all these fancy woodworking tools, don't worry. You can do this whole thing with a handsaw and a drill, or you can get the nice people at the lumberyard to make all your cuts for you. Take care.